Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money-colored commentator. On today's show, tax-free monies in retirement, part 2 in our series on tax-favored retirement strategies with retirement consultant Jamie Hibbard. Welcome to the second segment, Jamie.
Thanks again for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, well, I love the millennial point of view here. This is totally different. I'm not I'm a boomer. My children are millennials. So when I'm talking to them, I see a kind of a reflection in the way you look at things as well.
We get a bad rap on social media, that's for sure.
Is that right? Oh, wow. You guys do.
Millennials.
Oh, yeah. Well, do you think that's warranted? Do you think you're really you've been given too many awards for nothing?
I don't think so. I think it's easy to point it out. But
well, are those authors of those articles online? Are they all boomers?
I bet that's who they are.
Well, there you go. Let's talk about this. We're going to talk about 2 important tax-free retirement, but let's talk about the 4 just to make sure we say it.
Sure.
So there's you could get reverse mortgage.
Yep.
And by the way, HECM laws changed October, so you're going to have to look at those laws to see if they pertain to you. But you could get tax-free money from your HECM reverse mortgage. You could get tax-free money, shockingly, from cash value life insurance. You could get money from Roth IRAs, and you could get tax-free money from HSA accounts, health savings accounts.
Right.
Those 4 do not show up on the provisional income test for Social Security.
Correct.
But for our discussion, which are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about cash value life insurance and Roth IRAs.
Let's get the Roth out of the way first, because people are kind of familiar with that.
Yeah.
What is a Roth?
The Roth is one of the pieces in the tax-free bucket, which means you're taking money that, although you've paid taxes on it, you're contributing it to your Roth IRA account up to $5,500, and once that money's in that account, it grows tax-free, and then you can access it tax-free, meaning that whatever happens down the road, tax rates go up, tax rates stay where they are, you're accessing your money tax-free without any penalties. It's your money free and clear.
If I didn't have an employer match on my 401k, and I was just contributing to a deductible IRA, and I wasn't in a high bracket, should I actually consider Roth over a traditional IRA?
And I think this is one of the ways that a lot of people in my generation are looking at it a little differently. And if they aren't, they should be. It's always take the match, take the free money. It's an instant doubling of whatever you invest in your 401k. But beyond that, you might want to be looking at these other options as far as growing tax-free and accessing them tax-free into the future. Can
I summarize? So if I'm not in a high tax bracket or I'm not getting a match on my 401k, I need to consider Roth.
I agree.
Because I'm taking money out tax-free, and that income does not show up on my provisional income test for Social Security.
Absolutely correct.
Okay, now most people are pretty familiar with Roth IRA. Senator Roth introduced it 25, 30 years ago, whatever it was, to give options to retirement. But now we're talking about tax-free. Now, a lot of people think insurance. They think, well, isn't insurance for my protection? Isn't it for coverage? Right. Isn't it to indemnify the breadwinners in my family or business? Why are we talking life insurance for an issue like retirement?
It's a great question. Most people, when they think of life insurance, they think of your car insurance. You think of even term insurance, where you want to pay the least amount to get the most amount of death benefit that you can possibly get. When looking at life insurance as an accumulation vehicle, you want to turn it on its head there. You want to say, what's the most money that I can stuff inside of this accumulation policy, this cash value life insurance policy, and what's the minimum death benefit I can have that corresponds to that, while still keeping it as life insurance, so that my money inside the policy accumulates as quickly as possible.
Okay, now I noticed, if I'm looking at my inventory correctly, there's 4 different cash value mortality chassis out there. There's participating whole life, there's universal life, there's index universal life, and there's variable universal life. When I'm talking about how you structure it, which one of the 4, maybe you're using many of them, which one are you using?
It's usually a combination of all, but our favorite is the index universal life.
And why is that?
Well, no matter what happens in the market, you have a 0% floor. Okay, so there's the policy tracks an underlying index, whether it be the S&P 500 or a multinational index. As that index grows, so does your account value. If the index were to drop off like it did in 2008, your account never loses money. It stays at 0. So that's one of the reasons that we like it. It provides participation in the upside while also protecting against potential huge negative effects that can happen from a market crash.
Did I just hear you say that you could also get not only domestic like the S&P 500, but you could actually get foreign indices?
That's correct.
Did I just hear that?
Yep.
I just want to make sure I heard that. And remember, keep in mind that even with indexing, right, you can not only can you zero is your floor to your crediting, but I still have bills to pay in the policy.
That's
so
correct.
Just keep that in mind.
Yep.
I could be in a year of zero. I might still have bills to pay, and I might be negative. So I just keep that in mind.
That's
just
absolutely correct.
Little full disclosure there. All right, now I'm going to use to do what you want to do. I need a cash value. You're saying indexing is the way to go. I love index. It's one of my favorite products out of the four chassis. When I'm looking at this, I'm trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to describe to a client cash value life insurance when they're already, their mindset at least, is in protection. So now I have, it accumulates tax deferred. There's not a tax deduction for this.
Correct.
But when it comes out, I don't understand why I'm getting withdrawals to basis and policy loans to gain. Why is that free under the code?
It seems counterintuitive, but the reason that's a tax-free transaction is because the way you're accessing the money from the policy. You can think of the life insurance policy as a bucket. You've put your money in there, you've earned interest in it, and there's a water level in your bucket now. Put your own spigot on this bucket, and you start taking out your tax-free income. And like you said, you can always take out what you put in without tax through the form of withdrawals. After you get to that point, you and the insurance company enter into an agreement where you say, I'm going to borrow from my own policy the tax-free income that I need, and we're going to carry that, continue to take this tax-free income, and then someday just pay it back with the death benefit from the policy.
Okay, so what I just heard you say there, if I think I just want to extrapolate, these loans are collateralized with the cash value of the contract.
Correct.
And it's my understanding, according to the TAMRA regs, I don't want to get too deep into this, but you have to keep the contract in force for the life of the policy insured.
That's right.
I mean, if that ever was discontinued or terminated for any reason, you'd have an ordinary income tax on all the money that was gained.
That's correct. This strategy, you need this policy to stay in force for the rest of your life, and the right advisor will design it that way.
Interesting, because a lot of people look at horizon timing. They have short-term investments, mid-term investments, long-term investments. This is lifetime investment.
This is lifetime,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so if you understand that and you're okay with that, this is a really good way to look at tax-free. So I'm looking at Roth. I could put my mutual funds in there. I could put ETFs in there. I could put annuities into there.
Yep.
I can't put life insurance into a Roth.
No, you can't.
So life has to have its own standalone kind of area. Now, I noticed that if I'm taking policy loans out, I've noticed that in indexing, they allow you to take out loans, and I see that they charge you for it, but they also may credit you if you go above the loan value. So if my loan's 5% and I made 6.5% on the market, I actually made money on my own loans.
That's correct.
How does that work?
Well, you can think of it as you're being your own bank at that point. You've borrowed money from your own policy at 5%, but you earn 7% on it. You earn 2% total on that transaction.
On the loan.
Correct. And what you're essentially doing is you're taking advantage of what every bank has taken advantage of since the beginning of time. And that's the concept of arbitrage, where you're making more money than what you borrow it at.
Now, I'm looking at the lost decade, 2001 to 2010. There were 4 really bad years, 2001, 2, and 3, and 2008. I looked at the S&P 500 standalone with dividends against indexing S&P 500, and we did pretty good. I think it was like 6.57, I think it was.
Yeah.
Now, that's not with the policy expense loads taken out, but the gross rate, and that was without dividends as well.
Yeah, it's when you knock off any negative returns from your account, it has a magical effect because you're no longer fighting to regain what you lost. It's set at one point, and that following year, whatever it finishes off at, if you have a negative year, the market ends at X, you start at X the next year, even though you didn't lose any money technically from a negative return, but you start your next year's indexing from point A to point B at the lower amount.
Okay, so this is why you like it, because there's some protection and hedging here going on.
Correct.
And so it has the tax favoredness of accumulation and tax-free access to withdrawals to basis and policy loans to gain. So that's a very good thing. And we're going to need some of this to do some of the cool things you want to do later on in segment 3, 4, and 5.
That's correct.
Okay, so Roth IRAs are critical to the plan, and cash value life insurance, and you're using most of the time indexing. Okay, listen, don't forget to watch our next segment on converting taxable distributions to tax-free income, part 3 in our series on tax-favored retirement strategies. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on the show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the main